Welcome to Language of Leadership. I am your host, Mark Iorio. Today I have with me Ashley Muir. Ashley is the Principal and Brand Strategist for Wldfyr. Ashley, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Mark.
Great to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Let's talk a little bit about Wldfyr. With Language of Leadership, we try to get to the essence of what it means to not just develop language, but what it means to incorporate it into the behavior of an organization. So, delivering on a brand promise. Your organization and you as a brand strategist help organizations focus on the purpose of who they are, right? When they're doing their best work on their best day. And when you develop the collateral and everything that goes along with that, it's important for everyone to understand that you're making a promise to the world. So talk a little bit about that, because I think Wldfyr does a remarkable job putting together those platforms.
Yeah, well, so thank you, Mark, for saying
You're
that. In terms of branding, it's an incredibly complex task that we're really, given. And I think in terms of, developing that language is that you may have, one company or several companies, and you think you're operating it in a way that's very similar to other folks.
Sure.
But what we've found is that with each one of our clients, that they all come from a particular group of experiences that makes their business operate the way it does, and is really at the core of what they bring to the world. And they service a very unique subset of individuals. And so what we really try to do at Wldfyr is to tease that out of our conversations and then figure out how to communicate that visually. Because ultimately branding is a visual language. Right. So we leverage our experience and expertise to do that.
Yeah. Take us through your career path. You had your formal education is in design and art. You went to the University of the Arts, right, in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And what was the trigger for you to really grasp this notion of becoming a brand strategist rather than, not to mitigate creatives, right? But there's much more to creativity and much more to brand strategy than, the art, right?
Of course. So for me, I've been an artist my whole life. Sometimes I start the conversation with my painting is hanging up at my preschool, which it is, by the way. I was just in there a few months ago because we were looking for childcare for my youngest, and my finger painting is still hanging up there. So it's very much a part of who I am. And the strategic mindset is also very much a part of who I am, although I wouldn't have necessarily known how to pinpoint that. If you've ever asked me, to teach something, the two things that I wouldn't teach would be art and math, because I'm not really sure, how I do it.
Interesting.
But ultimately my choice to go to art school was because that was where my passion was. And I didn't necessarily know that I was going to be going into design when I started. And UArts had an incredible program where your whole first year was called Foundation. So you learned everything from painting and drawing, and then you kind of dabbled in what your concentration would be, but they didn't ask you to pick a major your freshman year.
Sure.
And so through that, I took a course in animation, and then I also took a course in design, and I just really excelled in design. Now looking back in high school, the two areas that I excelled were computer programming, math, and geometry. And so to have that dichotomy is a little bit unique in the field.
Sure, it is. I mean, there are some really unique, you said it, there's some really unique qualities to be able to build or help an organization build a strategy. And what do you think, what is exactly is it that makes you, besides this left brain, right brain connection that you have, and just growing up, people oftentimes pigeonhole us as human beings, right? Ashley, you're really creative. No, I'm just not only creative, I'm also very analytical. So I can marry those two hemispheres of my brain together and come up with strategies that make sense. What is it that you think makes you unique in that approach?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm really passionate about business. To me, in my life experience and everything, that I've achieved, the ability to work with a business owner to bring their unique idea to market, is really important to me. And I know building, now 4 businesses from scratch, that it is, you're not always starting with the amount of resources, right?
Yeah.
And you don't always have a whole lot of time, right? Because time is also, that equates to resources,
Sure.
right? You can't not work for, 10 years and, not make any revenue and expect to be successful as a business owner, especially when you, don't come from a background that allows you to have that support.
Right.
In terms of having and growing a family and all of the other things that we want to do with our
Sure.
lives, as big as they are these
Yeah.
days. And so because of that, because I come from that experience and being able to grow those things, essentially from dust, when my husband and I didn't really have a whole lot of resources, you talk about those, going to UArts, it wasn't cheap. And so, the way my brain was wired gave me the ability to pinpoint the different activities and initiatives that were going to allow us to grow those businesses strategically.
Yeah.
Which meant they grew faster and they grew more effectively to get us to the point where now, those businesses are doing very well.
Yeah. It's great to have that level of support from your family, especially with a spouse, when you're working with a spouse, growing businesses together. And, I'm sure your husband and you you're like-minded in the sense that, you're looking at the same overall or overarching purpose, right?
Yeah.
For your businesses. So that's great. Take us through, let's just for a moment get into a prospect, right? So you've just landed you're landing a client, right? Take us through the process of how you kind of uncover the nuances with a business so that you can begin to build that foundation and that strategy.
Yeah, well, believe it or not, a lot of it starts with language, right? Communicating with a client and understanding where they're passionate. And, sometimes those tools or those indicators of whether someone is passionate about something is really like, they're going over time talking about it, or they mention it more than once or twice during the conversation.
Yeah.
You can get a sense for like where a business owner, especially if it's an owner-founder, lights up, in terms of like what their goals and initiatives are.
Sure.
And, where the goal and initiative lights up with that passion, whether it's the business owner or the members of their team, that's really where you want to tease out and find focus, right? Because if you can capture, the passion and the goal, right? And then line that up with tactics that are going to allow them to gain market share, that's really where everybody feels like they're moving forward in a way that seems really effortless.
Yeah. A lot of times when you do that, and that's great, that's a great process because you're right, language that starts the whole process. That's why we do what we do here on the program, to talk about leadership and how language supports that. But where it falls apart, Ashley, oftentimes is in the execution, in the implementation, right? So let's just say, take us through this process, and you've developed this language based on the passion that the leaders have, and then you put this platform together and you have a whole tactical plan, but there are people in the organization that are not, let's call it, singing from the same sheet of music or rowing in the same direction. As a brand strategist, I know it's frustrating, but what can you do about that at Wldfyr that helps the leadership understand that that is important?
That's a really great question. The first thing we like to do is, in terms of our own team, is recognize when there's emotional experiences that are, keeping our team members from operating at their optimum level.
Sure.
And these essentially are conversations that your team members are having either in their own mind or with others once they walk away from that table.
Yeah.
And indicators of that are, right, you're having a conversation with someone, right? You think you're on the same page, right?
Sure.
You walk away from that conversation and you come back and it seems like, that client or, team member is now back to square one, right? You've noticed that there's been some regression.
Yes.
And a lot of times when that happens, it's because they have certain limitations or expectations about how they want to show up in the world. And sometimes it's not really in their best interest.
Yeah.
And so the best way to get around that is really to address it,
Yeah.
to sit down and have those conversations, let someone know that you've recognized something, and see if you can get there from there.
So important. It's so critical that you mentioned that because, a lot of times, the other thing that we're dealing with is you don't know what's going on in that person's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you may sit down, have a conversation with them, and get to the core of what it is that is causing them to not be as engaged in what we're doing here and becoming let's say a brand ambassador,
right?
Or delivering on the brand promise, and they have these other personal issues that are going on. So it's really important that we sit down and have conversations like that with our staff.
100%. And one of the things to acknowledge is that a lot of times there's been a lot of sacrifice, right, that has brought you to this moment, either with owner founders who have, at sometimes risked everything, whether it's time with
Absolutely.
their family or whether it's, how hard they worked.
Sure.
I mean, when I was in school, there were times where it was challenging to figure out when I was going to eat, right? So you have these real experiences where you're having these, sometimes they're even bodily reactions, like visceral reactions that you really don't have any control of, right?
Yeah, sure.
When it comes to taking risk in business, and anytime you're looking at growth, you're looking at taking risk. So you step that back to your employees, right? Even acknowledging from a leadership perspective how your own experiences are causing you to not have those conversations with your employees is really important.
Yeah. Thank you. We're going to take a quick commercial
Sure.
break. Folks, we will be right back with more from Ashley Muir from the Brand Strategist and Principal at Wldfyr right after this message from our sponsors. Don't go away.
I love that we both got an awesome network and save money doing it.
I know, $25. I love that it's guaranteed for 3 years.
Hey, we're sitting on a sign here.
Switch and get Welcome Unlimited for $25 a line, guaranteed for 3 years. Verizon.
No signal. I don't have home internet.
Oh, that's a red flag.
Find the bars.
Your mom looks a lot like me.
Yeah, couple of hotties.
Thank you.
Ah, man. There's dead spots all over this place.
There really are. Oh, wow.
Nothing. Are you getting a good signal?
No, I'm not.
It's time for Real Home Internet. Get it on the next generation 10G network. Only.
Welcome back to Language of Leadership. I am your host, Mark Iorio. I've got Ashley Muir with me today, and Ashley is the principal and brand strategist at Wldfyr. And I would say Wldfyr is more than a creative organization. You're brand strategists. I never called the company that I own, that I sold at the end of 2017. I never called it an advertising agency as a marketing company. And there's a big difference between those two things, I think. When you're marketing, I think my goal with 85 people was to help organizations grow their business. And like you've said, that is gratifying when you can see people based on the work that you were able to do and get people to change their mindset, right?
Yep.
Enough to help them. It's got to be pretty gratifying for you. So talk a little bit about that, because you and your husband started, you've got 4 businesses, and you've got a family, you've got kids too, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of juggling, but you do it because you have a process in place. Talk a little bit about the fact that, you walk into a client, maybe you want to have a case study we want to discuss, but you walk into a client and they're not really sure what to do, and now that they've engaged with Wldfyr, you're helping them grow their business.
Yeah, well, a lot of what we do is in client education. So having conversations around the difference between brand and marketing and advertising, right? Because they're all, they're all kind of siblings from the same parent, right?
True.
That all, work together, but it can be really challenging, especially when you're working with companies where they don't necessarily have a business background, or, they are, really focused on, delivering a high quality product or service,
Sure.
But they want to grow. And so in terms of, helping them to understand that, what we usually talk about is that, there are, 6 different facets of your company, right? There's the personnel, there's the finance, there's the marketing, there's the delivery of the product or service,
Sure.
And then there's, the business development. And what branding does is it's actually a key pillar that supports every single one of those business processes. And that can be from like how you make decisions and delivering on that brand promise, to what messaging you use in terms of marketing, to what is the next product or service that you develop? How do you talk about those products and services? And then how do you have your personnel all talk about those products and services, at the same time?
That, to me, when people started to talk about the word brand, I don't know, let's call it 30 years ago, right? I don't think people quite understood what that meant. And now when you go into a client, when you say that we're helping educate them, and I love what you just said, they're siblings from the same parents, advertising, marketing, and branding. So branding it's everything. And when people begin to understand that, it's not the mark, it's not the logo, it's everything, right? So I love the way you and Wldfyr have devised an educational methodology to get people to understand that it touches all parts of the organization, right? And that's what I was talking about earlier, Ashley, with behavior and changing the mindset of people in business development, in marketing, in operations, in IT, in finance.
Yeah.
So how far do you go? How deep do you get into an organization to get people to understand that it's not just up here. It's
Right.
everything.
Right. Well, first we encourage our clients to start where they are, right? So if they're doing no marketing at all, they don't have marketing personnel, and maybe, this is their first time they're reaching out for support, that conversation is very different from an organization that, maybe has, one marketing person or a couple marketing people within the organization. And, that conversation that we have with someone who's not doing any marketing at all would be really to have a conversation around their business goals and and their personal goals too. To understand, hey, where do you want to be, and who are you, and overall, like what do you want to deliver to the world, right? Because after we have that conversation, that's really where we have the ability to start connecting the dots in terms of like where the path to win would be for them. And it's very different from someone who has a single marketing person in-house that, and this is really what we're experiencing right now, is that there are so many different layers to marketing. There's so many different layers to advertising, so many different tactics you can use, right? It's not just print, mailing, and phone calls anymore, right? No. You've got your social, you've got video, you've got content creation, and to keep, feeding that content monster sometimes is not the appropriate win strategy for that particular business, because they may be interested in creating business relationships, or, they may, need more visibility within their industry in order to create the opportunities that they need. So, part of our conversation is to identify, right, what opportunities that you want to create for yourself, and then identifying different, key tactics and strategies within the branding and marketing sphere that are going to allow you to capitalize and move forward quickly.
And a lot of companies, listen, I've had a lot of experience in marketing and branding and brand strategy. A lot of companies do not do what you're doing with Wldfyr. They'll get to the superficial level. They'll talk about social. They'll talk about content creation. But there is a whole array of things that you could do tactically that may not fit that model, right? It may be, you mentioned it, it may be relationship building.
Right.
How do you do that?
Right.
How do you go about building relationships with, potential clients or prospects when you have that sort of business, right?
Right.
And that's not an easy process to learn. I mean, it's very, very difficult. Does Wldfyr focus on specific industries, or you kind of more broadly based?
Well, so we have experience that spans a lot of different industries.
Yeah.
But in the last year or so, we've been focused on companies in the AEC space, so architecture, engineering, and construction. Because my husband owns my husband and I own a commercial roofing company, and then also a building products fabrication company. It's just really a natural fit because we understand, how to grow that from scratch. But we do have a lot of clients that are in the financial sector. And then we also have a handful of food and bev companies that are really fun to work with.
Cool. Nuance-wise, do you see different nuances in construction versus food and beverage versus financial services, or are you finding a lot of similarities with the let's say problems that people encounter, but the issues that they have to overcome from a brand and marketing standpoint?
Yeah, so there are similarities for sure, but some of the unique challenges that we see in the AEC industry is that they are starting to be looked at from a PE's perspective, especially as AI is moving in.
Absolutely, sure.
And because of that, a lot of times, these companies are trying to now keep up with, lots of franchising models that are starting to move into their space and gain market share.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily, well set up from a branding and marketing perspective to, ride out that storm. So a lot of our conversations with these companies are, how to structure your business in such a way and leverage brand as a tool. To look attractive or sell out different parts of your business if you are looking to be acquired by PE, or to have a more robust marketing and branding strategy that allows your referrals to increase exponentially and make it harder for companies who are starting to enter in the space to gain market share.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are you taking? I'm sure I know the answer to this, but are you taking the strategy that you help your clients with and deploying that at Wldfyr? And how do you do that? How do you get the word out about the benefits of using and working with Wldfyr?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, that's always a challenge.
You're lighting
right?
up when you're saying that.
Yes, always a challenge. One of the benefits, about running for companies that we have the ability to, take the expertise that we offer, to our clients about how to stand out in the marketplace and implement them within our own business.
Sure.
But as, a good parent, obviously, like my kids get what they need first. So in terms of clients, if we have something, that a client needs, or there's an opportunity that, we really need to shift things around internally in order to capitalize on, right? The Wldfyr stuff gets shifted to the bottom. One of the things that I will say that we're really proud of in terms of the Wldfyr brand is really developing, a very, high quality and consistent brand. And then there's always opportunities to increase the visibility, which is, why we said yes to this opportunity. Yeah. But we're always, trying to increase the level of visibility and increase the consistency. And I think that that's something that most businesses also struggle with, right? And having, an outsourced partner allows you to be more consistent and continue to build brand equity consistently.
And focus on your own core business so that you can let experts like Wldfyr handle the more appropriate tasks of branding and marketing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So what do you think the future holds? I mean, what does that look like for you and your husband and the 4 businesses and Wldfyr? You see Wldfyr continue to grow, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like? What's on the horizon?
Well, I'd be lying if I said I knew.
But if you do know, we're going to Atlantic City.
Exactly.
Right now.
Right. Exactly. No, but I think some things that we're keeping an eye on right now is obviously how AI is affecting things and allowing us to work faster and work smarter. One of the things that we're recognizing is that in terms of capitalism, right, it's very much a sport, right? So we can sit here and have the conversation about Michael Jordan or LeBron, but the truth is the game has changed, right? So AI has presented this opportunity that just shows, hey, the game is changing, but the person who wins is still the best athlete. So when it comes to, growing the businesses and continuing to stay ahead of the market, what we're really looking to do is, find out more about these tools and the technologies that are changing, and how to use them proficiently to be the best in the marketplace, both for us and then also for our clients.
Yeah, I love that. I think you're right. I think people have said this a lot. I mean, we've had panel discussions about AI and the approach and the impact it's having on branding and marketing and advertising and writing. How many times do you look at writers and say, I mean, I can do this in like 5 minutes by prompting, AI. But my last question for you, Ashley, is when you look at the future and you see what Wldfyr has developed and designed, how would you approach a brand new client? Let's say you and I were talking and you're different, your business is different, your mindset is different, the way you're wired is different, and it's positive. How would you describe the difference between what Wldfyr does and maybe your competition?
So there's a lot of things that we do differently. I like to think that because of my experience, I show up in the world differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's something. Thank you.
I agree with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's something that can be a challenge to articulate. But I think what most of our clients see after, we sit down and we have a conversation, is that we really do understand everything that it has taken for them to build and grow that business, whether it's, a business that has been acquired or whether it's a business, that has been created from dust.
Yeah.
And that, we're willing to not only willing, but it is in our best interest to understand what makes that business unique, and to be able to market it to the marketplace in a unique way.
Yeah.
So we're not necessarily taking something that a specific tactic and then applying it to every single client.
Yeah.
We're really understanding, hey, what makes you different as a business?
Yeah.
Understanding why you're passionate about what you do, and then helping to create, a strategy and tools that allow you to share that passion with the world.
I can feel that. I see that, and I see that in you, and I see that in Wldfyr, and that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because I really do feel a difference when we talk about brand and strategy and or brand strategy versus some of the other competition out there. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for all of this.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. Could you tell everyone how to get in touch with you and Wldfyr, please?
Absolutely. So we are we're on Instagram, so you can follow us and like on Instagram. Feel free to share our stuff at Wldfyr Co. And then also, if you'd like to shoot me an email, you can go to our website at wldfyrco.com.
And Wldfyr is spelled?
WLDFYR.
Yeah, it's a little different. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's really great.
Yeah, this is terrific.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, and Ashley is very active on LinkedIn as well, so you can check her out there as well. Thanks so much for joining us on Language of Leadership. This was a great episode. Check out Ashley Muir, please, when you have a moment. And we'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week, everyone.